My name is John McKeon, and I'm the moderator of the Teradata Primo River community, Teradata and Primo's largest customer community. You can connect with us at teradataRiver2.com. Today, we'd like to welcome Justin and Abraham from Express Scripts. Justin is a product engineer, business intelligence tools, and Abraham is a DBA. They'll be speaking at the Partners Conference coming up, Benefits on Implementing Querybanding Through Business Objects. Welcome, both of you, to the River.
Thanks, John. Thanks for the invite.
Thanks, John.
Let me ask you something. How did you guys get started? What really drove your push into querybanding?
Well, actually, it started when I reached out to Abraham from the app side, and I said, hey, Abraham, is there any way we can co-locate the request information that's coming from BI tools, say SAP Business Objects, and put it next to maybe a comment that's in Teradata? And he said, oh yeah, you mean querybanding? And I said, well, tell me more, because I was planning on putting a block SQL comment on every single request that went in. He said, oh, no, we have this great feature in Teradata that allows us to do name-value pairs. What kind of information would you like to send? And so we kind of worked through that. I got educated on what's available, and I would say within a week, we had our standard, we had our approach, and we had the cost to deploy this, which was, I'd say, 40 hours total across our whole BI platform, to be able to reap the benefits on co-locating our request information in DBQL.
Amazing. And so how did that change your workload prioritization?
Abe, I'll let you take that.
Okay. So with that rich level of information, to step back, prior to that, we were getting information about the entire workload from, say, a particular ID that is used within the universe. Now, being able to get additional information through Queryband, we were able to identify the different workloads, the different reports, and the criticality of the reports, and prioritize the workload based on that information. And far more additional benefit that we reap from that is being able to identify those different workloads, and then also potentially look at optimizing those different workloads through Teradata indexing strategies or join indexes or materialization of the data, so we can make the workload perform better and at the very end of it provide a better experience for the end users.
Give me a little bit more detail. How did the end user experience change when you implemented querybanding?
Well, out the gate, the great thing about querybanding is there's not a pay for performance that we run into by implementing this quote-unquote overhead or tag to all the requests that go down. So the users actually didn't experience any bump in the road or added payment and performance to get that information into Teradata. Behind the scenes, what Abraham and I did is analyze these trends and figure out what are the top reports, what are the reports they run 80% of the time, and what's their average runtime. And so with that information, he was able to work his magic in the back end with TASM and Teradata and basically make it to where the 80% of reports that are run on a monthly basis extremely speed up some of those requests that maybe would get stuck or lost in the queue and help prioritize that workload.
How did that change row-level data access security?
So we identify who you are in the tool, and every request that we force down into the database, we use an assignment table that only forces the join and only allows you to see the information you're allowed to see. That part of the query didn't change at all. The net result of a query explained was that we had a set queryband statement at the beginning of every single transaction that went down into Teradata from business objects. All the security scope remained the same. Now, one thing it did allow us to do from an auditing perspective is we have various dev, test, QA, production, BI tool instances that are connecting to various dev, test, QA, production, Teradata instances, and we'd like to keep those from an auditing perspective and controls within their vertical and not cross. And what a lot of times is if a developer doesn't have the data in development, they'll want to point to production, and we leverage a lot of different offshore partners, and some of those rules would get violated. So in order to maintain visibility and an audit control, being able to not only tell which user is connecting to which system, because the BI tools are connection pooling. So instead of business object user 1, we can see business object user 1 and this particular RACF from a system is being logged in. So it helped us do a lot of security audit and implement some easy controls, all with the flip of a switch in the BI layer.
What were the biggest problem children that came to play when you implemented this?
We identified a couple of things that were not supported, some pieces of business objects that weren't supported. One of those things was a tool called Desky, which is from the product perspective being phased out, and So on our roadmaps, it's not a big deal, but we have a very limited use of Desky. But the query band definitions wouldn't resolve when Desky users were connecting into those universes. So that was one gotcha. Luckily, those universes are dedicated to Desky clients, so we just simply removed the query band. There was another instance like that where folks that are doing universe development, which is our semantic modeling tool for SAP Business Objects, the query band definition, when you were doing various validation checks or check consistencies, would throw some errors. We communicated that with a dev note out to our dev team. They simply remove the query band when they're troubleshooting an item and replace it before they check the object back in. So net, when you're troubleshooting something, the query band, when you're troubleshooting some universe development, the query band's removed. But once you deploy it to the server, it's checked in, it's ready to rock, and it covers all queries that are fired down as the Teradata.
So who do you think got the best benefit out of this, the DBA team or the apps team?
That's a good question. Abe, I'll let you take that, and then I'll add my colorful commentary.
Absolutely, yeah. So I think it's, from an overall ecosystem perspective, it's a win-win situation, right? One, we are able to identify what is a critical workload, and then by being able to do that, we can provide our best practices in making that workload more optimized. And then at the very end of all of this, the end result is the queries perform better, so we have a happier customer base.
Yeah, and from the app side, John, we're data geeks. So being able to have and co-locate our metadata, what universe, what user, what query in a report is causing a particular problem is powerful for us. We do have audit technology that's baked into our product that goes very, very deep, but it's more tool specific. And since our clients use our technology and log into business objects, it's nice to be able to tie not only the user experience, but the client experience and what particular query of maybe 5 on a particular document is the problem, instead of getting a total aggregate. So that was a big win for us. And then I would also say that at times where a query would get lobbed into Teradata, instead of getting the, hey, here's the query, it's coming from this report ID 1, could someone please notify the user? We didn't have the tool or the mechanism to be able to identify, because that query's already gone or it's already out or it's been canceled, who it was. And so the user would kick it off again and kick it off again. And so having that query band and viewpoint allowed the DBA team to say, this is the user, here's the report, here's the query on the report that's the problem. Dev teams, please isolate this because we're not going to let it run again. Please reach out to account management. So it definitely allowed us to have a much higher touch capability with our client's experience.
And in addition, with more optimization and being able to identify the different workloads, what that provided us was cut out all the unnecessary workload on the system, which means we could take on more application workload, new application workload on the system.
Well, you've heard it. It's a win-win for both the DBA team and the apps team. Justin and Abraham will be presenting at this year's Partners Conference, Benefits of Implementing Query Banding Through Business Objects. If you're into query banding and business objects, you need to come to this presentation. We look forward to hearing both of you guys at Partners.
Thanks, John.
Thank you, John.